Everyone is at a different level in their Valorant journey, so today I'm going over different tips for each rank from Iron all the way up to Radiant. These are going to be applicable tips you can use to make the progress of ranking up as fast as humanly possible. And beginning with Iron, this is a rank where a lot of players are either brand new to FPS games, have terrible circumstances in terms of frames per second or ping, or simply play it just for the fun of it, not caring too much about ranking up and improving. However, if you are in Iron and trying to get out, here are the three main fundamentals that will help you skyrocket out of there. The first is understanding crosshair placement. If you're not already aware, crosshair placement is holding your crosshair at head level so your mouse movements won't have to be flicky like they will be if your crosshair is naturally sitting either at ground level or if you run around looking at the sky. It's also nearly impossible to build a good skill set if you don't build upon good crosshair placement. So although it might feel very unnatural in the beginning for some of the newer players watching, you need to force yourself to hold your crosshair at head level. Your crosshair placement should be so good to the point where if you get surprised by someone standing at an off angle, you should only need to horizontally adjust your mouse placement. If you ever need to vertically adjust, chances are your crosshair placement can improve. The second fundamental is understanding the incredible importance of repetitions. If you are in Iron, chances are you haven't had the opportunity to get in a lot of reps of going around the map and shooting your gun. This may be because you only have a limited time to play every day and you spend it only on ranked. It may be because you play way too safely in the matches you do play, or it may be because you simply haven't understood that it isn't the time you put in that matters, but rather the repetitions. Everyone that plays 1 hour a day should spend 20 of those minutes straight up playing deathmatch. If you play for 2 hours a day, you should lock in exactly 30 minutes of deathmatch. For 3 and more hours, you'll be able to consistently get better by just playing ranked, although I recommend doing 30 minutes of DM on 3 hours as well. A common trait of low ranked players is that they don't believe in themselves, so they don't go for the opportunities they think will work. And this can cause your progress to be 3 times as slow as someone who has a lot of confidence in their own in-game abilities. Let me paint you a picture. You're left in a 1v3 clutch and you want to peek an angle and try to take one opponent out because that feels like the right play to you, but your teammates are communicating that you shouldn't peek. One player in this situation will listen to their teammates and not peek, resulting in him getting run down in a 1v3 where there's absolutely nothing he can do. Player number 2 on the other hand peeks the angle and gets the first kill. Then he's in a 1v2 and he's able to take out another and the third, meaning in the same round this player was able to practice shooting on 3 opponents. It is absolutely crucial that you understand this fundamental if you want to skyrocket out of any rank, and especially in the lower ones. The third and final fundamental for Iron is applying the right settings. If you haven't already made some changes to the default settings and sensitivity, then you're limiting your progress potential by a lot. If you're new to FPS games, set your sensitivity to what you consider low and then set it an additional 15% lower. A low sensitivity is a hack for newer players. However, if you've played games at a high level before, your sense won't matter because you have good foundational mouse control. After you're done watching this video through, simply search up a best settings and sensitivity for Valorant for some really good pointers on what to do and what not to do when it comes to settings. Moving on to the next rank, we have the rank of Bronze. And for some reason, players in this rank struggle a lot with movement. But it is understandable. Developing good movement is something that takes consistent work over time to get better at. And you also need to exclusively think about improving the aspect if you want to exponentially get better at it. It's not something that automatically gets a ton better just from playing. The main thought you need to have when playing is that you're going to move in a fast pace when, for example, entering a site. Then when you see an enemy, stop, then click your shoot button, and if you miss, don't be scared to move yet again. Stop and shoot. For those of you watching who are in a high rank, this sounds super obvious, but a lot of bronze players, when they get in a duel, just stand still, either until they kill their opponent or the other way around. You need to get better at moving around, being a harder target to hit. And even if your aim isn't great, you'll perform much better as a result of good movement. If you can couple your movement with a solid level of trigger discipline, you'll get out of bronze in literally a week. Trigger discipline is the practice of being comfortable waiting to shoot until you have a good shot. So even if your opponent shoots before you, you don't shoot out of nervousness. You wait until you're comfortably on the target and then you press your fire button. Now you might think, if my opponent shoots first, I need to quickly return fire. This thought is completely wrong and holding so many players back. Rushing to shoot develops a low tier aiming skill set. If you from today can build your skill around slow and precise mouse movements coupled with trigger discipline to the extent of only shooting when you think you're secure on the head, you'll think like an Immortal player even if you're in bronze. It's crazy how all of these small mindset shifts build upon each other, and having a flawed thought process behind one of these fundamentals can slow down so many other aspects of your individual skills as well. What's also crazy is how many players are stuck in silver, although fundamentally being much better than a rank. In silver, to consistently win games, you need to play with and adapt to your team, and a lot of the silver players I have seen simply does neither. What I mean by adapting to the team game is understanding when a team is willing to play with you and not. What I mean by this is that if you're for instance playing Jet and usually entry frag and your teammates are able to trade you when you die, this is a good strat. But in Silver, there will be games where your team won't trade you. And going in entry fragging and being aggressive, claiming space is pointless if your team doesn't come with you. Depending on your team, you can either play super fast and trust your teammates to win rounds based on the opportunities you have opened, or you might have to take a slower approach because your teammates play that way. Having a static playstyle is extremely stupid if you want to reach the top in Valorant, but so many players play the exact same way regardless of teammates and complain when they lose, saying that they're playing with terrible teammates when in reality it's just them being difficult and not making an effort to adapt. Another tip for Silver players is to watch good streamers play. In the rank of Silver, you have a ton to learn about the game. Things like how to use utility, learning to rotate quickly, and understanding of what it takes to win clutch situations are things that can easily be learned from simply watching someone like Tense play. Watching pros is a phenomenal way to get some pointers on what to do and what not to do when it comes to playing Valorant. Learning everything by yourself is a waste of time when others already have a fundamental formula for things that works time and time again. Gold is the next rank we need to talk about. And firstly, I want to talk about overusing abilities. In contrast to Silver, a lot of Gold players attempt to use their utility a lot. However, most of the time it's either totally pointless or poorly executed in terms of the timing of the usage. In Gold, you need to focus on the fundamentals. I'm talking improving your aim, movement, and comms. I'm not telling you not to use your abilities, but a lot of Gold players are caught with their flash out when playing Phoenix or performing a terrible dash when on Jet just to get one-tapped by the opponent. In other words, a lot of Gold players use util just for the sake of using util. This is a mistake. Every time you get ready to use any kind of utility, think of the purpose it will serve. Say you have a flash in hand as Phoenix. What angle do I want to clear with this flash? Or if you play Brimstone, what will you do after your smokes have landed? What route will you take into the site? The same utility mindset can be applied for any agent, and it will stop you from overusing your abilities and help you on average win more rounds, just like patience will. What I've seen in a lot of lower tier players is their insane impatience. Now, when I'm talking about patience, I mean waiting for opportunities to open up. Sometimes you have to be the one forcing out a mistake in the opponents you're playing, but other times you can capitalize off their mistakes by simply being patient. Using your auditory awareness, you can frequently punish pushes to different sites and make a play when you hear the opponents are nearby or even shooting in a different direction. Additionally, if you know a team is playing super slowly, that means that they're waiting for you to make a mistake, like pushing when you play defender. Do not allow this mistake to happen. Counter their slow style of play with even more patience, and you'll come out on top more often than not. Now, I haven't talked about equipment yet in this video, and I don't plan to other than this either. But if you're platinum and seriously want to get out quickly, get minimum a 144Hz monitor if you don't have one already. If you're on a budget, go on a used marketplace. Here in Norway, I actually found some listings for decent working 144Hz screens as low as $40. The difference is massive compared to 60Hz, and it will actually make it noticeably easier to perform. So consider making the investment, as the time spent on a game will also be a lot more enjoyable on a 144Hz display. Finding a friend group or at least a duo to consistently play with is another tip I have for all platinum players. The thing about platinum is that it's a rank where you'll find all sorts of players. This is where you really start developing some skills, whether it be mechanical or tactical. By finding a duo to play with, it not only becomes easier to grind long hours together, but you can also learn a lot from each other. Maybe you know something you don't, and the other way around. In platinum, as I just mentioned, people have some really visible strengths, but also really visible weaknesses. And that is why it's so important to benchmark your skill. In order to benchmark your skill, record a Valorant game and go over every single death when it's completed, all 13 plus rounds. Find a reason behind you dying in each and every one of them, and the one thing you died the most to, you spend some time practicing. This can for example be dying due to lack of awareness, missing shots, also called having bad aim, or something as simple as just being hesitant. If you don't benchmark your skill, it will be hard to improve at the fastest pace possible, and especially in a rank like Platinum, it's important to understand that you have some shortcomings, and if you're able to spot them and work on them, you'll get to Diamond in no time. And moving on to Diamond, I firstly want to talk about making the mistake of respecting the opponent. The problem a lot of Diamond and above players face is that they think the players they're playing against are so good to the point where they can't make the plays they want to go for. In other words, respecting the opponent a little bit too much. The mindset you must develop if you want to catapult up to Ascendant is that you're going to top frag every single game. You shouldn't have a reaction to top fragging. It should be your standard. Don't be like the other 60% of Diamond players who get one game where they're on top of the scoreboard and they tweet, "Why am I always playing with such bad players?" If you top frag with 30 kills and you lose a match, you shouldn't ask why your teammates played so badly. You should ask why you didn't get 40. In Diamond, I also recommend everyone to focus heavily on momentum. What this means is that you spend a lot of time warming up, making sure you give yourself the best odds of winning your first ranked match of the day. Your first ranked match often determines the rest of the day as well. If you lose it, your chance of losing again and again and again will become much higher compared to if you win your first match. I strongly believe a momentum is also the reason some Diamond players play like Immortal players one day and then like a low plat player the next day. You should be doubling down on the days you play well. So if you start today putting on a show, dropping 30, you go again. And if the momentum keeps up, like it often does, you can have a sick day of a ton of progress and improvements. Making our way to the third highest rank of Ascendant. This is where things start becoming super fun, because at this rank, you know what you're supposed to do. You have mastered the mechanics of Valorant to a very high extent. And the difference between someone in this rank and Immortal is often only a small few things. Now, if you find yourself in Ascendant, you must spend time daily watching yourself play. Don't waste time watching pros at this stage because you know what you're supposed to do. The reason watching yourself is so important is because you might have small flawed habits without even noticing when playing. There are so many things you can only improve by watching and reflecting upon. At this stage, you need to take 30 minutes out of your day to just sit back, watch, and drill your mistakes into your head so you can focus on not making them the next session you play. Because if you don't watch yourself, you'll forever make those mistakes and your playstyle will be flawed. Furthermore, as an Ascendant player, you must understand being fast. Fast at rotates, fast at coming, and fast at general decision making. I see so many players lose rounds they shouldn't because they spend an extra 5 seconds too much waiting to rotate from a site to another. Now, knowing whether a team full commits or not is difficult, especially considering you have to trust your teammates' comms on the situation on the opposite side. But being slow and indecisive is the last thing you want to do if you want to reach the next two ranks, like Immortal. The Immortal to Radiant grind takes a lot of time, and what I recommend is getting into grinding custom game matchmaking when you get to this point. Custom game matchmaking is a lot better for improvement than ranked. However, you naturally don't gain any ranked progress by playing these custom games. But the positive thing about them is that the competition will be way harder than normal matchmaking, again resulting in faster improvements. The worst thing I know is wasted talent, and a lot of people out there who long-term could have succeeded in real competitive matches never take the chance simply because they're lazy and not looking into customs and playing against other actual semi-professional players. There are tons of different national leagues in the different countries around the world, and you also have international small tournaments you can join online. All you gotta do is look. The final rank is of course Radiant, and at this point the door is open to attempt to play professionally. And this is also my tip for everyone in Radiant watching. If you haven't already started, try firstly getting into a tier 3 team. Then as time progresses, you can get into tier 2 Valorant, where you make an actual good salary, and then in tier 1 Valorant, you can make money that will set you up for the rest of your life. Obviously, being in Radiant doesn't quite compare to being at the very highest level in the world, competitively speaking, but chances are you have some super valuable attributes that you can build on to get there.